By Tuesday morning, the air was thick with tension. For weeks, the Spanish police had been hunting down and detaining activists organizing the controversial Surround Congress action, dubbed 25S. Anything promoting the event was taken down immediately by the police. Cultural centers where 25S meetings were taking place were raided and shut down. Activists were detained. As buses headed toward Madrid for the big day, they too were stopped by the police. Those who did make it to Madrid by Tuesday morning speak of the police harassment and intimidation leading up to September 25th.
Les ha hecho entrar en una dinámica muy paranoica, muy asustada, que ha llevado a esta dinámica represiva para intentar asustar a la gente. El resultado, como siempre que en el último año y medio han intentado asustar a la gente, es lo que veis.
The police surrounded demonstrators at all the main meeting points before protesters marched to Congress. Police helicopters flew overhead all day.
As protesters start moving from Plaza de España, which was one of the many meeting points for demonstrators, you can see the police are heavily equipped in riot gear, and they too are getting ready to move with the demonstrators. This action has been called by the Spanish government a possible coup d'etat. No one here is armed, and a number of the people who are participating include families with children, the unemployed, and old people.
As this march begins, the anger and tension amongst the protesters as a result of the police harassment is visible. Although the main trade unions, which usually mobilize masses, did not endorse the action, many of their workers showed up anyway.
De cierta manera parecíamos que nos identificábamos por esta forma de manifestarse, pero gracias a que nos llaman golpistas, pues los que defendemos la democracia es un insulto que manifestarse en la calle se diga que es golpista, cuando realmente los golpistas son los que están potenciando este tipo de manifestaciones.
The people here charge the right-wing government with theft of public wealth and driving the country into poverty. Many insist their frustration is mounting, which brought them to the workplace of their politicians. Their demands included the removal of the current government with new elections, the immediate ends to austerity reforms, and the rewriting of the Constitution. Those surrounding the parliament are part of the broader Indignados movement, born on May 15th of last year. This is yet another showing of anti-austerity public outrage.
We're about one block from the Congress, and what's happened is a number of demonstrations coming from different plazas in the city to converge here have been cut off by the police. This is one of those groups, and just on the opposite end of it, you can actually see demonstrators on that side also trying to get in. They too have been blocked by the police.
Usted está reprendiendo al pueblo que le está diciendo un presidente que dimita y haga unas elecciones nuevas, porque ha engañado al pueblo, y usted lo sabe. Ha subido el IVA, motivo suficiente para que usted le detuviera. Usted no tiene el valor.
On the opposite side of this march, a larger demonstration approaches the gates of Congress, and violence erupts. The police viciously attack and detain protesters and members of the press. As the police expand their line away from the Congress, the protesters remain defiant. Then their patience wears thin, and the police start to push forward.
Now the press has been kicked into the area with the demonstrators, so it seemed to be a human traffic jam between protesters, press, and also the police.
On the other end of the police line, clashes break out, and again the police attack. Many are detained and dragged away. Then shots ring out, and the scene escalates into complete disorder.
The situation has turned extremely chaotic here. People wouldn't leave initially. They were sitting down and maintaining a non-violent situation. And then out of nowhere, the police just started pushing the front line. And there's just chaotic running happening everywhere. And people are starting to fight back.
The police break off into small groups and chase down demonstrators. along the way beating and detaining those trying to flee.
At one point, it was the people who were outnumbered, but now the police are very outnumbered by the protesters, and they're throwing huge bricks at the police, rocks, glass, and they're responding with rubber bullets.
Now it is the police who are under attack. They shoot rubber bullets at close range into terrified crowds of people. Some take refuge in this restaurant. The owner pleads with the police to leave the area. The police chase continues as protesters run in all directions. Those being shot by their rubber bullets include women and journalists. The police seem bewildered and at times disorganized in the face of mounting anger. They began to chase protesters up the small streets. But notice they are outnumbered and retreat.
Nuestros padres lucharon con los grises y nosotros luchamos contra vosotros, que sois sus hijos, hijos de puta. Y a la mañana tu hijo no va a tener que comer, tu hijo no va a tener que comer.
Back at the Congress, a couple of hundreds of protesters, mostly young and unemployed, hold their ground. All the while, the police continue to hunt down and arrest protesters.
La cosa estaba bastante tensa y los policías empezaron a arremeter contra todo el mundo, empiezan a cargar indiscriminadamente contra todo el mundo, incluso contra los periodistas, les da igual que estén en medio. Y estamos volviendo a una represión fascista, les da igual, no se dan cuenta que quien tienen que defender es al pueblo y es a quien le están atacando.
Siempre la fuerza por la fuerza, siempre, siempre, siempre. Es su única arma, la fuerza, la violencia.
By Wednesday morning, government officials in Madrid congratulated the police force for how they handled the protesters. 34 people were arrested and over a dozen injured. Protesters vowed they would return and surrounded the parliament again Wednesday night, ending in more police violence. Immediately, activists called for another mass demonstration in the same location on Saturday.
Spaniards are flowing back into the area surrounding Congress in droves. If the government expected to intimidate people out of attending this action, it would seem the opposite happened.
Si tienen miedo es porque nos podemos sublevar y no nos pueden controlar, que es lo que ellos quieren, controlar al resto de ciudadanos, y por eso tienen miedo, a que nosotros tengamos un punto de vista y una opinión diferente a ellos y no les dejemos hacer lo que ellos quieren.
Despite the threat of possible police violence, many came out with their families.
Nuestros padres lucharon por nosotros y nosotros luchamos por ellos.
Y para que él vea lo que es una lucha, lo que es...
Es un momento clave ahora mismo porque estamos decidiendo lo que te está diciendo él, que haya una clase rica y una clase pobre, y la clase pobre no pueda aspirar ni siquiera a tener estudios ni sanidad, que son derechos fundamentales al fin y al cabo.
¿Por qué tanta policía? Porque tienen miedo, y si tienen miedo, ¿a qué? Porque has hecho cosas mal, y haces cosas mal.
Amid the anti-austerity rage, the government announced last Friday over $52 billion in spending cuts for the 2013 budget. In an attempt to save its failing banks and lower its borrowing costs, the government plans to slash funding to healthcare, education, public works, and cultural arts. The budget includes a 15% tax hike, freezing public sector wages, and reducing unemployment benefits. The announcement, for those protesting here, was further indication that the government is not listening to its people.
Hay una deuda privada de los bancos enorme. Lo que quiere el gobierno, lo que está haciendo el gobierno es trasladar esa deuda privada. Entonces, esta deuda privada se está convirtiendo en deuda pública por arte de magia. Esto es la estafa que está habiendo ahora mismo en España.
Y cuando ellos quieren, hacen una justicia y cambian las leyes para que, por ejemplo, a unos pirómanos se les castigue muy fuerte, pero ellos están robando y nunca hacen nada, y los bancos roban y tampoco hacen nada. A ver cómo se come eso.
By Saturday evening, the Congress was once again surrounded by thousands of people. But when the numbers thinned out, the police moved in. Some who refused to leave are arrested. Protesters react and hurled cans and water bottles at the police. Some pleaded to keep the peace. Others throw themselves in front of police vehicles encircling the remaining protesters. They are given an ultimatum: leave or face arrest.
Yo os considero personas, pero quiero que también me consideren a mi persona. No somos animales, somos personas.
Attempts to prevent a violent response from the police prove futile as they charge forward, viciously attacking protesters and the press. As we try to film, the police push us and other journalists into frantic protesters. One man is beaten unconscious and carried out by medics. Lines of riot police began to chase protesters out of the area. There was a brief standoff. But not before long, the police line moves ahead. They storm down the streets surrounding Congress, leading into residential neighborhoods, shooting rubber bullets into fleeing crowds.
Charging the demonstrators down this street is probably going to be a bit more difficult because, as you can tell, it's a commercial district. They pushed about 7 blocks away from the Congress, and they've reached into residential neighborhoods. The police are just beyond that area, and as you can see, this area, there's bars and lounges. These are areas where people are going out. They have no idea what's going on.
This video shows the police breaking into private properties searching for protesters. Other accounts illustrate the police storming into packed bars to track people down. As the press try to film their raid, they are attacked and pushed back by the police. Back at the parliament, the plaza where thousands had converged earlier was fully cleared. The week culminates in a wave of anti-austerity unrest that also rocked the debt-ridden capitals of Greece and Portugal.
Lo que está pasando aquí es una revolución social. Lo que no puede ser es que nos quiten los derechos, la sanidad, educación, a todo tipo. Hay ataques continuos a la clase obrera. Esos ataques a la clase obrera tienen que atacar. No somos títeres de los mercados ni de la troika. Fuck FMI.
The most alarming aspect amongst the countries struggling to survive the debt crisis is skyrocketing unemployment. Spain, the Eurozone's 4th largest economy, has the highest jobless rate of all 17 countries which use the regional currency. 1/4 of the Spanish population are without jobs. 1 in every 2 Spaniards under the age of 25 are unemployed. Most of the protesters who faced down the police during the raids were young, out of work, and struggling to pay increased tuition fees. The anti-austerity protests that raged the night before and throughout last week did not stop the government from moving closer to another European bailout by Sunday morning. The mass mobilization to Congress did not end in the government's resignation, nor did it halt spending cuts as protesters demanded. But what it did establish is that regardless of police brutality, resistance to austerity in Spain is not letting up anytime soon. Jahan Hafiz, Madrid, Spain.